My name is Margaret, I'm 70 years old, and I live in a small town in Tennessee. I've been a church-going woman most of my life, raised 3 kids mostly on my own after my husband passed in 1987, worked as a school librarian for 31 years, and I thought I knew what it meant to be blessed by God. I didn't. Not really. Not until I died. And what Jesus showed me in that place, I have to tell you, because I promised him I would. I promised him on the other side of this life that if he sent me back, I would tell every woman I could reach. So here I am. And what I'm about to share is going to change how you see yourself. Forever. It was a Tuesday morning in March, about 2 years ago now. I had just turned 68. I'd been having chest pains for about a week, but kept brushing them off the way women do. We're so used to carrying everything that we don't notice when the weight is killing us. Literally. I was sitting in my kitchen drinking my second cup of coffee, reading my Bible, and then nothing. Just nothing. My neighbor Gloria found me on the kitchen floor about 40 minutes later. The doctors told me afterward that I had gone into full cardiac arrest. My heart stopped. Completely. By the time the paramedics got me to the hospital and worked on me, I had been clinically dead for somewhere between 11 and 14 minutes. 14 minutes. I was gone. And while I was gone, I was somewhere else entirely. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the crossing over part because honestly, that's not what this testimony is about. But I'll tell you this much so you understand, there was no tunnel of white light the way people describe in movies. What I experienced was more like stepping out of a loud, busy room into total quiet. Like when you walk out of a grocery store in December and the cold air just hits you all at once. That sudden. That real. Except instead of cold, it was peace. A peace so heavy and so complete that I started crying immediately. And I didn't even know why I was crying. I just knew I had never felt anything like that in 68 years of living. And then I saw him. I won't spend too long on what he looked like because words genuinely fail and I don't want to be dramatic about it. What I'll say is this, I knew it was Jesus the way you know your own mother's voice on the phone. Immediately. Without question. Without needing to verify anything. I just knew. He looked at me, and he smiled. And he said very plainly, very simply, Margaret, I want to show you something. About my daughters. That was it. That was the beginning. And for what felt like hours, though time doesn't work the same way there, Jesus walked with me and he talked with me. And what he revealed to me was something I desperately needed to hear. Something I think millions of women need to hear right now. He showed me 7 signs. 7 ways that a woman can know, really know, that she is blessed by God. Not blessed the way the world means it. Not the Instagram version of blessed. The real thing. And I'm going to tell you every single one of them right now. The first thing Jesus showed me was a woman. I could see her clearly. She was maybe in her 40s, sitting in a hospital waiting room. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her face was still. Around her, people were pacing, crying, staring at phones. But she was still. I said to Jesus, who is she waiting on? He said, her husband. He may not make it through the night. I was shocked. I said, but she looks so calm. And he said something I've thought about every day since I came back. He said, Margaret, the world thinks peace is what happens when the storm stops. But I never promised them the storm would stop. I promised them I would be in the boat with them. That woman is not calm because the situation is fine. She is calm because she knows who is in the boat. He told me that one of the clearest signs that a woman belongs to him, that she is genuinely walking in his blessing, is that she carries a peace that doesn't make sense from the outside. He referenced what Paul wrote in Philippians 4 verse 7, that the peace of God surpasses all understanding. He said the reason it surpasses understanding is because it's not rooted in circumstances. It's rooted in trust. He said, people think blessing looks like comfort. But blessing often looks like steadiness in the middle of discomfort. He told me about the Proverbs 31 woman. He said she could laugh at the days to come not because she was naive, but because she was anchored. Her confidence wasn't about her situation. It was about who she knew. Then Jesus turned to me specifically. And this is the part that hit me hard. He said, Margaret, think about your own life. When your husband died, when you were raising those children alone, when the bills didn't add up, you kept going. You kept your spirit. You didn't collapse. Do you know why? I said, because I had no choice. He said, no, because I was with you, and my peace was holding you together even when you didn't feel it. That peace was not nothing. That peace was a sign. I want every woman hearing this to understand, if you have ever found yourself steady when by all rights you should have been destroyed, that is not your strength. That is God's mark on your life. That peace is a sign that you are blessed. He said, a woman I have blessed is not a thermometer, she is a thermostat. She does not just react to the temperature of the room. She sets it. That one sentence. I've never forgotten it. Then Jesus showed me something else. He showed me what I can only describe as a picture, like a living image, of a woman walking into a room. She wasn't dressed extravagantly. She wasn't loud. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. But when she walked in, people noticed. And some of them smiled. And some of them shifted uncomfortably. I asked Jesus, why do some of them look irritated? She didn't do anything. He said, she didn't have to. Favor has its own announcement. He talked about Joseph. He said Joseph didn't ask for the coat. He didn't campaign for his father's preference. But the favor on his life was visible whether he wanted it to be or not. And the response from his brothers wasn't really about Joseph. It was about what they saw on Joseph that they didn't see on themselves. Jesus said, when a woman is walking in my blessing, she becomes a mirror to others. And some people don't like what they see when they look at her, not because of anything she's done, but because her light exposes where they're dim. He said this clearly, the enemy is not intimidated by what a woman owns. He is threatened by where she is positioned, her sense of purpose, her seat at the table God assigned her, her quietness that communicates confidence. That's what provokes the friction. And then he said something I want every woman reading this to write down. Don't defend the blessing. Don't shrink from it. Don't dilute your light to make others comfortable. The world did not give you that favor, and the world cannot take it away. He told me that favor is like a fragrance. You don't walk into a room announcing that you're wearing perfume. You just walk in, and the room knows. He said, Margaret, if you have ever been misunderstood, talked about, or quietly resented, and you weren't doing anything wrong, that can be a sign. Not always, but it can be. Because when heaven's mark is on a woman, people sense it even when they can't name it. He referenced Genesis 37 verse 4, where Joseph's brothers hated him not for what he did, but because of what rested on him. And he said, a woman blessed by God will sometimes experience that same dynamic. It is not a curse. It is confirmation. He also reminded me that Joseph had to go through the pit before the palace. The blessing didn't skip the hard part. It went through it. And the pit wasn't proof that God had abandoned him, it was part of the path. A woman I have blessed, Jesus said, is often misunderstood, but she is never misplaced. This is the sign that made me cry the hardest. Because this one was me. Jesus showed me the story of Ruth. And he didn't just tell me about it the way I'd read it in my Bible 100 times. He showed it to me. I watched Ruth standing at the crossroads where Naomi told her to go back to her own people. I watched her make the choice to stay, to go forward into the unknown. And Jesus said, do you see what she gave up? I said yes. Her homeland, her family, her familiarity, everything she knew. He said, and do you see what she received? And I understood. Not just Boaz, not just provision, but a legacy, a lineage. Her name is in the genealogy of the Messiah because she was willing to let go of what she had lost and move toward what she hadn't seen yet. Then Jesus turned to me and he said, Margaret, your husband, your marriage, the life you thought you were going to have. Do you understand now why that door closed? And I broke down. Right there, in whatever that place was, I just wept. Because I had carried grief about that for over 30 years. The loneliness of raising my kids alone. The feeling that I had been robbed of the life I was supposed to have. And Jesus said, very gently, "You weren't robbed. You were redirected. The life you grieved was never the life I designed for you. The woman you became, through those years of struggle, through raising those children, through learning to depend on me instead of a person, that woman is who I needed you to be. Not the version of you that had an easier life." He said, "The blessing is not always in what I preserve. Sometimes the blessing is in what I replace. And sometimes I can only give a woman what she truly needs after I've removed what she was holding on to too tightly." He said that a woman who is blessed by God often has a story that includes loss. Real loss. Not inconvenience, actual loss. Because God uses loss the way a sculptor uses a chisel. He's not destroying the marble. He's revealing what's inside it. He quoted Romans 8 verse 28, that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And he said, that verse does not say all things are good. It says all things work together for good. The difference matters. He told me, don't curse what you buried. Some of the most important things I ever planted in a woman's life, I planted in the soil of her greatest heartbreak. If you are a woman who has lost something or someone you loved deeply, and you're still standing, Jesus showed me that this can be one of the most powerful signs of divine favor on your life. Not in spite of the loss. Through it. Jesus then walked me through what I can only describe as a whole of women. Not famous women. Ordinary women. But each of them had something in common. There was a settled quality to them. A groundedness. I said, what makes them different? He said, they know who they are. Not who people say they are. Not who their past says they are. Who I say they are. He told me that identity is one of the primary battlegrounds in a woman's life. That the enemy works overtime to get a woman to define herself by what people think of her, what she's been through, what she's done wrong, or what she doesn't have yet. He said, a woman who has to have your approval to feel real, that woman is vulnerable. But a woman who has found her identity in my word, she is unmovable. Because I don't change. And so her foundation doesn't shift. He referenced Psalm 139 verse 14, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And he said, that is not a motivational quote. That is a statement of fact about how I made every single one of my daughters. The problem is most of them don't believe it. They recite it, but they don't believe it. He said that the Proverbs 31 woman wasn't clothed with strength and dignity because her life was perfect. She was clothed with those things because her spirit had been built on truth, not on performance. She wasn't trying to earn dignity. She walked in it because she knew who gave it to her. And then Jesus said something that struck me deeply. He said, Margaret, one of the most dangerous things a woman can do is look into the wrong mirror. Social media is a mirror. Other people's opinions are a mirror. Past failures are a mirror. But none of them show her the truth. My word is the only mirror that shows a woman who she actually is. He told me that a woman who is blessed by God doesn't need the world to validate her, because she has already been validated by heaven. She has been adopted into the family of God. She has been called by name. She has been fashioned with intention. She is not random, he said. She is royal. And that kind of security, the security that doesn't crumble when someone criticizes you, the kind that doesn't dissolve when you fail, the kind that doesn't need constant reassurance, that is one of the signs. When a woman knows who she is in God's word and she doesn't need man's opinion to hold her together, that is a mark of blessing on her life. This is the one that I personally found hardest. Because I am a woman who likes to know what's coming. Always have been. I'm a planner. I like information. Uncertainty has always made me anxious. And Jesus knew that about me. He addressed it directly. He said, Margaret, contentment is one of the most misunderstood signs of blessing. He talked about what Paul wrote in Philippians 4 verse 11, I have learned to be content in whatever state I am. And he made a point to emphasize the word learned. He said, Paul didn't say he was born content. He said he learned it. Contentment is not a personality type. It is a spiritual discipline. It is something that gets developed through seasons of uncertainty. He was very clear about what contentment is not. He said it is not complacency. It is not giving up on your dreams. It is not telling yourself that what you have is all you want. He said, contentment is the posture of a woman who says to me, God, I don't see the whole picture. I don't know how this works out. I don't have the answers I want right now. But I trust you. And my trust in you is bigger than my need for clarity. He told me to think about the women who are waiting to be married, waiting to be healed, waiting for a child, waiting for a breakthrough in finances. And he said, the world will tell those women that their waiting is evidence that they are not blessed. But I want you to tell them, the waiting room is not the waiting room. It is the preparation room. He told me that the blessing doesn't always arrive the moment you pray. Sometimes it arrives exactly on time, which is almost never when you expected it. And the woman who can maintain her peace, her genuine grounded peace, in that in-between season, is a woman who is demonstrating one of the deepest signs of God's favor. He said, look at her praise in the hallway before the door opens. Look at her posture in the waiting room. Is she growing bitter or is she growing better? A woman I have blessed grows better. He referenced the manna in the wilderness, how God gave just enough for each day. Not a week's worth. Just today's portion. And he said, a woman who can receive today's portion with gratitude, even when she wanted a month's supply, that is a woman who trusts me. And that trust is itself a blessing. He said, the woman who praises me before the breakthrough is the woman I can trust with the blessing when it comes. Because I know she won't forget where it came from. Contentment without clarity is not weakness, he told me. It is worship. And worship in the waiting room, that is a holy sign. This one came as a bit of a surprise to me. Because in our culture, being alone is treated like a problem to be solved. Like isolation is the punishment and community is the reward. But Jesus showed me something very different. He brought me to the story of Esther. And he specifically pointed to the 12 months she spent in the palace chambers before she ever saw the king. 12 months of preparation. 12 months where nobody outside knew who she was or what she was becoming. Jesus said, what do you think was happening to Esther during those 12 months? I said honestly, I always thought of it as waiting. He said, no. It was making. I was making her. In the hiding, I was forming the queen. The public never sees the preparation. They only see the coronation. But the coronation only happens because of the preparation. He quoted Isaiah 49 verse 2, in the shadow of his hand, he has hidden me. And he said, Margaret, I hide what I value. I do not neglect what I am protecting. When I place a woman in a season of obscurity, it is not because I have forgotten her. It is because I am securing her. A tree that has not developed deep roots cannot hold the weight of heavy fruit. He talked about David, fighting lions and bears alone in the wilderness, years before anyone put a crown on his head. He said, those private battles were not interruptions to David's story. They were the making of it. If he could not face a lion alone, he could never have faced Goliath in public. And then he talked about himself, 30 years in Nazareth. 30 years of obscurity before 3 years of ministry. And he said very simply, if I was willing to be hidden for 30 years, why do my daughters think they should be visible from the beginning? He told me that a woman who is blessed by God does not wither in isolation. She grows. She develops. She deepens. She comes out of the hidden season not depleted but developed. Not bitter but better. He referenced Galatians 1 verse 10, where Paul asks whether he is trying to win the approval of people or of God. And he said, a woman who needs to be seen in order to feel valued has given her power to the audience. But a woman who can do her best work when no one is watching, she has given her power to me. And I never lose it. He told me that the hidden season is where real character is built. It's where God can work on a woman's motives, her dependence on him, her ability to be led by the Spirit rather than driven by applause. Don't rush the hiding, he told me. Don't beg for visibility before your roots are deep enough to handle what comes with it. Because when I bring you forward, I want you to be able to carry it. And the only way you can carry it is if you were built in the quiet. He said, a woman I have blessed thrives in isolation because her validation doesn't come from views. It comes from her private victories with me. If you are in a hidden season right now, if you feel overlooked, forgotten, passed over, Jesus told me to tell you, you are not forgotten. You are being formed. That is a sign of blessing, not abandonment. This was the last thing Jesus showed me. And this is the one that I think about the most. He showed me women in pain. Real pain. Not the sanitized, social media version of hardship. Actual crushing. Women in hospital beds. Women at gravesides. Women sitting on bathroom floors in the middle of the night. Women whose marriages had ended. Women who had lost children. Women who had been betrayed so deeply they didn't know if they could ever trust again. And one by one, he showed me something remarkable about these women. In the middle of their worst moments, they were still worshipping. Some of them were weeping while they did it. Some of them were whispering because they didn't have the strength to speak louder. Some of them were saying words they didn't fully feel yet. But they were still lifting their hands. Still saying his name. I watched this and I started crying again. I said, "Why are you showing me this?" He said, "Because I want you to tell my daughters what this looks like from my side." And he told me. He said, "Margaret, when a woman praises me in the middle of her crushing, when she should have every human reason to curse me or walk away from me or go silent, and she doesn't, that praise does not go unheard. It does not go unnoticed. That praise moves heaven in a way that comfort season praise simply cannot." He said that praise in the easy seasons is beautiful. He receives it. He appreciates it. But praise in the crushing, that is something different entirely. He said, that praise is not a reaction. It is a declaration. It says, "I don't understand what you're doing. I don't like this. It hurts. And I still trust you." That kind of faith, that is what moves mountains. He talked about Job. He talked about Job's wife telling him to curse God and die. And he said, she was in pain too. I understand why she said what she said. But Job's response, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him," that response did not go unwitnessed. I saw it. I heard it. And I did not forget it. He referenced Psalm 34 verse 1, "I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth." And he emphasized the phrase, "at all times." He said, at all times means in the miscarriage. It means in the layoff, in the diagnosis, in the loneliness, in the grief that nobody else can see. At all times. He used an image that I haven't been able to shake since I came back. He said, "You know that olives don't produce oil until they are pressed. Grapes don't produce wine until they are crushed. Gold doesn't become what it's meant to be until it has been through fire. My daughters are the same. The crushing is not the end of the story. It is often where the oil begins to flow." He said that a woman who praises God in the middle of her crushing is a woman who understands that her praise is a weapon, not just a response. It is spiritual warfare dressed as worship. It confuses the enemy. It breaks chains. It opens something in the atmosphere that nothing else can open. And then, and this part stopped me completely, he said, "Tell them that I collect every tear. I count every one. I see every dark night. I hear every whispered prayer that nobody else hears. They are not invisible to me. They are not forgotten. And their praise in those moments, I receive it as the greatest gift a daughter can give me." I couldn't speak for a moment. I just stood there. And he said, "Are you ready to go back?" I said, "Do I have to?" He said, "You promised." And he was right. Somewhere in that time with him, I had agreed. I had agreed to go back and to tell what I'd seen. I don't remember the moment I came back. One instant I was with Jesus. The next, there was sharp pain in my chest, loud voices, and the cold brightness of a hospital room. My daughter was gripping my hand, calling my name through tears. The doctors said it was a miracle. 14 minutes was too long, they told us. They expected brain damage. They had no explanation for my recovery. But I did. As soon as I had the strength, I asked for a pen and paper. I had made a promise. I wrote down the 7 signs exactly as I remembered them, afraid I might forget even one word. Since then, I've shared this story with women everywhere, in churches, waiting rooms, and online. And almost every time someone asks, "How did you know that was about me?" I didn't. But he did. If you carry peace in chaos, endure loss and remain standing, grow in lonely seasons, refuse to depend on the world's approval, and still praise God through pain, those are signs. You may not look blessed by the world's standards. The world values applause, God values faithfulness. And a heart that keeps turning toward Him is the greatest blessing of all.